Welcome back to Classis Wisconsin Conversations. This is a especially Classis-centered episode because we're recapping the meeting we had at my church, Oostburg Christian Reformed Church. Pastor Jason Ruis from Faith Community Church in Beaver Dam is our stated clerk, and so he's sent out a summary of the Classis meeting that I'll share in the description here of this video. And Jason, any highlights? We'll just touch on the morning briefly. A lot of reports in the morning, but any highlights from the morning worth discussing before we discuss a couple of other things?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've told people this was a pretty mellow Classis meeting, which was nice. There's a few businessy items that needed to get done, but it was pretty light, which was nice because we've had some pretty heavy ones with a lot of examinations. There's some heavy things going on in Classis, and so it was kind of nice to have one where we had a lot of presentations and stuff.
I would say heavy, just to clarify, not contentious.
No.
I mean, we're not. I mean, Classis Wisconsin is quite unified. As far as I can tell. So, but heavy in the sense that there's been some churches closing. That's heavy. There's been some pastors leaving, and some care that needs to be done around the Classis. Heavy in that regards, and heavy because you and I were on the renewal committee, and so we've done some reorganizing in Classis. So a lot of business and policy and procedure stuff. But just worth clarifying, not heavy in the sense that we don't know where we're headed.
Correct.
Right. Anyways.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And when I talk to other Classis, we have a lot more unity in that kind of realm in Classis. And I guess to toot our own horn a little bit, all of the work we did restructuring Classis has really bore fruit, right? We've been kind of at it for about 6 months here now. And it's been really, really good. And so it's kind of working itself out in really efficient, helpful Classis meetings, I think.
Yeah.
And so, I would say a highlight of the morning session was kind of a highlight of the day, really, was, we kicked off with worship and a time of Lord's Supper, but also an opportunity to be exhorted from God's Word. And we had Max Sore exhort us from God's Word, who's planning a church in Milwaukee right now. And it was a blessing. He exhorted, he's not, I think he speaks English really well, but he's not as confident to preach that way. And so we had, I think it's Tom Sorens, right?
Yeah, Tom Sorens is from our church, yeah.
So Tom Sorens interpreted for him, and it was just a delight to hear that. I found it enjoyable to watch, like Mac all of a sudden would break out speaking English, and every once in a while Tom would start speaking Spanish, and I found joy in that. But it's just Mac's a really passionate guy, excited to be in Wisconsin and excited to preach the word. And so it was really a highlight to watch that. And as we're getting prepared to eventually examine him as a commissioned pastor in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it hasn't been an examination yet, but by all accounts seems really qualified and gifted for church planting. So looking forward to the day that happens. In the afternoon, we kind of took on some business. One matter was a report from Synod that I believe Evan Tinklenberg gave, our campus pastor in Madison. Highlights of that report, Jason?
Yeah, so actually we gave, Evan Tinklenberg was one of our pastor delegates from Classis, Wisconsin, and then Ben Van Wielden was an elder delegate as well. And both of them took an opportunity to speak. Evan gave a more of a broad overview of what happened at Synod 2024. And I just appreciated both of their experience at Synod, as, they felt like there was a bittersweetness to Synod, but they both mentioned how they felt it was very prayerful, and there actually was a lot of unity. Is what they talked about. You hear some people talk about disunity at Synod, but they felt a great amount of unity and actually very little conflict. It were the words that they used at this Synod, even though they knew that as a result of some of the decisions, there was going to be a parting of ways. But overall, there was a sense of peace in the midst of that. So that was really good. So that was kind of Evan's broader overview. And then Ben Van Wielden served on the finance committee. And this last year at Synod, they spent a lot of time talking about pensions. And so he just wanted to give an update to pastors on our pension program and some of the work that he did at Synod regarding pastor pensions, but also the work he's been doing since then, because there's a lot of confusion right now about our pension program for pastors. And he said, I don't think many pastors or churches understand the pension program. And so I've been kind of rebuking them a little bit and saying, like, you have to help pastors better understand what's going on. So it was really nice to hear him kind of laying some of that out for us and helping us understand. So that was really good.
We had an opportunity to honor Greg Zonnefeld, who's one of several really talented license to exhort holders who did not renew his license. And we've had Greg on the program before. Maybe I'll link that video in the description. But anything worth highlighting during that segment?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the big highlights as well. You know, usually the license to exhort renewals, they get filtered through their councils. Councils have to re-recommend people, and for the most part, Classis just accepts the recommendation of councils, and so it's a pretty quick, like, all in favor, aye, and then we kind of move on.
Rubber stamp, kind of.
Yeah. But this year, when Greg, emailed us and said, hey, because of, I've been dealing with a brain tumor and it's affecting my speech, and I can't really exhort anymore. And so I don't want to renew it. And I remember feeling just a sense of sadness because for one, I know Greg really well, and he really stepped in big time, 3 years ago when I was in a coma and struggling with all of that, and our church was needing pulpit supply. Greg stepped in and really did a great job helping our church through that. And so I think he's been licensed to exhort, if I remember right, for like 12 years or 14 years in Classis, Wisconsin. And he's just kind of a figurehead in this area, this kind of Waupun Beaver Dam area. So yeah, we honored him for the work that he's done, and then prayed over him as well, because he's still in the midst of a pretty heavy battle right now.
Yeah, we ask everybody to join in praying for Mr. Z, and it's a heavy one. The rest of the meeting was a lot of, I said rubber stamp already, but approving a budget, that a little bit of conversation, and a lot of presentations. But anything else that was maybe worth mentioning here?
I would say one of the really cool things that we're doing in Classis, Wisconsin now, or that we're looking into, is regarding Max Soray and the church plant that he's looking at doing in Milwaukee. What we established at this last Classis meeting is we approved a 1-year residency with him, like a church planting residency with him at Brookfield CRC.
Yeah, that's a compelling idea.
And so, it's kind of a trial for maybe a new model for us to look into planting churches in Wisconsin as a way of, because we believe that, churches are the ones that plant churches, and the model of taking a church planter, like having them parachute into a community, every once in a while it works, but very often it goes south, or it's really, really difficult.
Right.
And so this way you get the church planter, embedded in a community, surrounded by the support of a healthy church, shepherded, and then help them get to know the community that they're in as they're planting the church. And so, we approved a 1-year residency under Classis support as he begins to lay the foundations for a church plant in Milwaukee. And so I think it's a really compelling way to think about church planting, and we're hoping that it'll help increase the success rate of planting churches in Wisconsin.
There's a church in our area in Oostburg that has planted recently that way. A little bit different. They hired an associate pastor with kind of the intent to plant, and that's what ended up happening and has been quite successful. Born some fruit, which is exciting. And I just think like for a congregation like ours, I guess that's as much as I can say, but I imagine other CRC churches are a lot like us. It's a less scary way to plant because I don't know if it's because you get time to, there's a morning involved in, if you're going to send a group to a plant, but you sort of get some time to kind of dip your toe in the water. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but it's a compelling idea, and I hope this works, and I hope other churches can utilize this philosophy. It's exciting to me.
Yeah, and again, I would say this is some fruit of just the restructure that we've done in Classis, Wisconsin, with kind of a renewed emphasis on church planting and beginning to rethink that and getting the teams functioning in that way. And so, I'm excited to have a little bit more work being done on figuring out how to do that well here. And so, I think it's a great idea. And for the plants that have been successful in Wisconsin, even though it wasn't called a church planting residency,
that was mentioned.
It kind of was,
right.
in a lot of ways. And it grew out of people who were in those churches for a while being discipled and then planted a church. So it has proved successful unofficially, and I think it'll be successful now as an official strategy for us.
I agree. Well, thanks for your time, Jason. Any parting shots?
Yeah. No, just I'm excited. It's really nice. As stated clerk, I get to hear from all these other Classis, and other stated clerks are reaching out to me, Classis that are in a lot of turmoil right now. Actually, I would say just be in prayer for a lot of these other Classis, because these fall and winter meetings for some Classis are really, really difficult and hard. And so on the one hand, I'm thankful in Classis, Wisconsin, we were able to have maybe an unexciting meeting.
No news is good news in some ways.
Yeah, that's a blessing in some ways. And yet it shows the health of our Classis. But there are other Classis who are really going to be struggling. And so be in prayer for them, that they would be wise and God honoring, and that our denomination would continue to be healthy and grow.
Yep. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Zach.